Oh no, I am back with a sequel. For those who don't know, a while back I released a video called Top 5 Worst Warframes, and that video did something to these Warframes. Surprisingly enough, 2 out of 5 of those Warframes got amazing reworks, and one of them got touched a little bit without consent, so they're still on this list. And another great thing about that video, I think that DE took some inspiration for one of the reworks. And that's with Grendel. Because in that video, I was discussing a way on how to rework one of his core freaking mechanics. And they actually went through with it. Check this out.
So what's a good way to fix this Warframe? You eat enemies and you have a counter. Doesn't drain energy, but it has a counter. Meaning, with each ability cast, it consumes an enemy in your belly. Pretty simple. So this will incentivize you to eat more enemies, just so you can cast an ability. It's still a bad thing where you have to eat an enemy for you to use an ability, but it's better than an energy drain or having an augment that drains your health.
And the recent Warframe that just got reworked is Hydroid. And if you haven't seen, I did do a video about him quite recently on how he was and how he is now, and some amazing builds you should definitely try out. So in this video, I'm going to discuss on the new top 5 worst Warframes that we currently have. And when I'm discussing about these worst Warframes, I want you to think about one thing. Just because you enjoy these Warframes doesn't mean they're good. Fun is subjective. I know you're here to play video games and have fun. That doesn't mean you need to stop having fun. Use the Warframes that you like, but that does not change the fact that they're doo-doo water. And the way I'll be ranking these Warframes is on how useful their kits are, how well their abilities synergize with your loadouts, and how much they can offer you and your teammates, and how well these Warframes can deal with a lot of the Warframe activities and objectives. And if the kit can be completely replaced, why use them at all? A lot of people will look at this as like, oh, this guy is an elitist. He just does endurance runs. He doesn't care about the Warframe new player. I don't care about the Warframe new players. That's absolutely right. Because, listen, people who come into Warframe will see the crazy powerhouse that you can be, and they're like, bro, I don't want to be stuck with doo-doo water here. I want big damage. And if you like progression, you're going to start off with doo-doo water. Because at the end of the day, you're going to get a lot of power very quickly. Because the Warframe content that I produce is about some juicy synergies that offer you a lot of damage, clearing things fast, optimal, without any hassle. Just because a Warframe can do Steel Path doesn't make them good. Any Warframe can do Steel Path, and then again, as I said, any Warframe can do level cap. And I prove that with my other level cap videos. And the game Warframe is supposed to give you options, a diverse loadouts. But if a Warframe can be replaced or not even need to be used, then what's the point of using them? Because hopefully DE does rework these Warframes pretty soon, because we know they need Jesus. Okay, so without further ado, let's start off with number 5, and that is Valkyr. Now, during one of the prime times, Megan did discuss they might be working on a Valkyr rework. Unfortunately, I do not have the clip because I forgot which prime time that was, but you can just take my word for it. Trustmebro.com. This Warframe contradicts herself. Actually, not the first one on this list, by the way. Her first ability, useless. What is the point of a melee Warframe doing that? It can pull enemies, sure, but it pulls them way past you. So you can't even melee them. And this ability is so useless, they had to put it in an Arcwing. Why, DE? Why? Her second ability, people like this ability. Armor increase. Wow. Speed increase. It means attack speed, by the way. And speed decrease, meaning it slows down enemy movement. However, this ability can only be cast once and not refreshed. So if you cast it with a few enemies around, only those enemies are then slowed down. For example, you cast it here, only these enemies will be slowed down. You cannot recast it, as you can see right there. But there's an augment that allows this ability to remain active indefinitely, just for its attack speed buff. Now, the bonus armor is nice. You think, oh, that's pretty good. Valkyr already has an amazing base armor, one of the highest in the game. This armor is irrelevant when we get to her fourth ability. Now, she has this ability called Paralysis. Activates it, staggers enemies, knocks them away, knocks them down, all that good stuff, right? But it drains your shields and energy at the same time, while the Warframe herself has a low shield pool. Now, we get to the fourth ability, Hysteria. Now, if you don't know, I did 2 amazing builds for Valkyr that slays acolytes and a version where she never has to turn this ability off because it does drain energy over time. When this ability is active, you're invulnerable to all incoming damage. So what is the point of the armor bonus from this ability if you don't take damage with this ability? But yes, it allows you to do a lot of damage and all the good stuff. But now, let's take a look at her passive. Her passive is a very mediocre handspring. So she gets up faster and she lands like a cat without that hard fall landing. Activate the fourth ability and it's all gone. I mean, there is that one chance when you switch to your gun to do some priming, sure, that's when you can get knocked down. But what if you just never need to go into your gun mode to prime, where you can just spin and deal crazy amounts of damage? But yeah, you should go check out those builds, by the way. It makes her passive pretty useless. And funny enough, the other Warframes do have bad passives, except one. And I'm planning on making a Warframe video about horrible passives, so stay tuned. Chroma is still on this list. And it hurts me because I used to adore this Warframe. I got his prime access because I was an avid Eidolon hunter. I was out there every night with my Rubico Prime, dink-donking those Eidolons. It was a really good time. But unfortunately, Chroma's here, and let's take a look at why. Starting off with his stupid passive. Chroma is the only Warframe that can triple jump.
Huh? That's stupid.
That's his passive. He can triple. Again, I will do that video on passives coming soon. This was really weird for a lot of people, but some people did find a use for this. That third jump allowed you to shoot another Exodia Contagion, which made it really nice for Prophet Taker, because that's literally what he's used for now. Prophet Taker. Nobody uses him for Eidolons except those people who quit the game years ago and then came back. Let's go hunt Eidolons. Chroma? No. His fourth ability is the only reason why you would take him to Prophet Taker. Mainly because you can get bonus credits with this ability. For those who actually go to Prophet Taker with Chroma, replace his third ability for Eclipse because it is a stronger buff. When you're hunting Prophet Taker, it's in daytime. Eclipse gets all the benefits and is a final damage multiplier to all of your weapons, while Vex Armor gives you armor and base damage. But remember, you have to take damage to your health to get the bonus damage. And of course, with the addition to shield gating, this can be quite annoying. And you're either forced to use combat discipline or even take a decaying dragon key. This ability should instantly give you the damage buff on cast. I'm still not sure why we have to take damage to get a damage buff. There's so many ways to get weapon base damage. So it kind of makes this ability mostly useful for armor. However, there is a weird feature where it double dips with some thrown projectiles. That's all I'm gonna say. Second ability, unfortunately, cannot be recast, but it does offer some useful buffs, mainly in the cold and heat variant of this ability. Heat gives you bonus health, and then you got the cold, which gives you bonus armor, and also reflects projectiles back to the enemy. The electric one is useless. Toxin used to be good, but now it's pretty much useless. DE reworked some stuff and now it's just useless. Now, let's take a look at the worst of them all, Spectral Scream.
Why does that even exist?
Clicking this ability allows you to switch between the 4 elements. And when you hold this ability, you now breathe fire. You can't use your guns. You can use your melee. And people cope with this ability saying, oh, but then it's very good at priming enemies. I can use this with my melee and have it be a primer ability. This exists. Kuva Nukor exists. The Deriga exists. The Panzervopophyla exists. There's so many things that exist that can do a better job than Spectral Scream. Why do you cope so much? Number 3, it's Ureli. That rhymes. Haha, pain. So much pain. Anyway, you guys are surprised. What is Ureli doing? Number 3. She's just not up there anymore? Yes, that's chunking. Even I was shocked. But she's still doo-doo water. Now, this is the frame I was talking about that got touched a little bit. They changed Sea Snares and Riptide to be actually kinda decent. I say kinda decent, they're usable. Starting Marilena. Why does this ability exist? There is one way to make this ability actually useful. 1, ReWork K drives. Why do they exist? I know someone there in the company wanted to have hoverboards in the game. Oh, let's do this Back to the Future style. But seriously, K drives are pretty useless. So now they changed this slightly as well, where you can finally go in and out of your Warframe. Before you couldn't do that. And it gives you some iframes, mounting and dismounting. However, movement with this thing is still horrible and slow, right? Why would I do that while I can do this? Right? Do this. Not to mention, you still can't use helmet abilities while on Marilena. Since we're on Marilena, we can bump into random things and just slow down our movement drastically. But she has a third ability. Aqua Blades deals damage to enemies and bleeds them. But the other sad part about this ability is that it doesn't scale with range. All of her other abilities are used to crowd control enemies, push them away from you, while Aqua Blades needs to be in close contact to the enemies to just deal damage.
Why does that even exist?
Whose idea was this? Whose idea was this?
So if you actually want to use your rally, you either replace her second or her third ability. Some might say, oh, but her augment is nice. What? Seriously? You still need to go close to enemies, tickle them to build up the stacks, just so you can throw that ability at enemies at a distance. I don't see how that's beneficial. I forgot to mention this. When you're on Marilena, you cannot melee. Using your melee kicks you off your K drive. You cannot use your primary weapon, just your second. If you swap weapons, you can't do anything except do tricks on K drive. Why?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Number 2. My weapon test dummy. I mean Loki. Now, funny enough, the companion rework was the final nail in the coffin to cement this Warframe as one of the worsts in the game. I'm gonna briefly run down his kit, and I want you to just, keep that in mind, okay? Okay? His first ability is a decoy that draws enemy fire. Unfortunately, it's squishy AF and gets one-shotted by enemies. You can switch places with it. So if you want to go and bypass lasers or reach hard-to-reach spots, you can switch teleport in an instant. The second ability allows you to go invisible. The fourth ability disarms enemies. And unfortunately, this decoy will just get one shot. That's the sad part. You have an augment to make it invulnerable, but you're still vulnerable. But now that you know how his kit works, this Warframe has one ability that does all of Loki's first 3 abilities. Go invisible, put a decoy, switch places with it, and you become invulnerable instead. Without the augment, let's add insults to injury. Using a hound with the repo audits will disarm enemies. While disarming enemies, it can also crowd control enemies. It can also switch teleport and grant itself evasion. It can also prime enemies with radiation, causing you to have disarm with the radial disarm augment. Enemies are disarmed. I can literally just sit here and do nothing. That's pretty much all I have to say about Loki. You know this was coming. You knew this was coming. Number 1, the man, the myth, the legend, Inaros. And this is when people come, oh, you just don't know how to use him right. You don't know how to mod any of these Warframes. That's why you're saying they're bad. No, you're just coping. Now, this Warframe doesn't do anything at all. For those who are going to say he doesn't do anything special, no, he doesn't do anything. Oh, but he can use desiccation, blind enemies, and you can lifesteal. I can blind enemies and lifesteal without using abilities. And in an AoE. His second ability. You know what? Instead of me explaining this ability, I'll have the past me explain this ability. Take it away.
His ability allows you to suck off an enemy. By the way, you can't do anything else while you're in this state. You can't do anything else. You're invulnerable, but you can't do anything else. You're draining their life force. Slowly but surely, they will die. You can just give it like, a few minutes. Just to kill that one enemy. by sucking them off.
You know, I'll just let the past me explain the third and the fourth ability at this point.
His third ability turns into a sandstorm. You can still take damage. You do mediocre damage. Enemies are confused. But guess what? You're still gonna get shot. His fourth ability has you stand still, suck off your own health to give you armor. That doesn't scale. Oh, look at that. I'm dead. Also, when I die, I turn into a coffin. That sucks off enemies. If they die, I get my health back. But it doesn't do much to kill enemies. But the good thing is, your allies can kill these enemies who've been infected by the sand. And you can be resurrected without them even touching your coffin. That passive looks kind of similar, right? To a certain Warframe that does it better, you know? Just saying.
What's hilarious is that people come to the stream and think I just hate Inaros. But it's the Inaros fans which give me a headache a lot more. Because they're so narrow-minded and don't see the bigger picture. They will cope so hard coming up with several excuses. You can make him tanky with the augment, so he doesn't take any status effects. There's a lot of Warframes that can do that without any augments. But he has so much health. Health isn't everything. There are two other Warframes that are pure health and have better survivability and better abilities. Oh, but if you use his fourth ability, you can use some sort of crowd control and deal corrosive damage. This Warframe doesn't offer anything special. Other Warframes that offer you better utility, better survivability, better crowd control. We do have a Warframe that's just mainly shields. Way more useful than Inaros. All I'm saying is, if you rework this, Pablo, do your magic. And for the Inaros players, stop coping. Anyway, folks, that has been it from me. I do hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, please feel free to leave a like, share, and subscribe for more Warframe content, streams, and so much more. Do refer to the description. Thanks for watching, and as always, a peace, a bye-bye now.